on this edition of Somerville Neighborhood News. Attend a meeting about Lowell Street traffic, see how the city and restaurants are coping with the ban on styrofoam food containers, go to a haute cuisine restaurant server class, learn the latest on the Winter Hill group home issue, and hear from a professor about some of the reasons people flee Central America and head north. All this and more on Somerville Neighborhood News.
Hello, and welcome to Somerville Neighborhood News. Today is November 18th. I'm Elijah Kaplan. Somerville Neighborhood News is a community service production of SCATV, put together by staff, interns, and your neighbors. We bring you the news every 2 weeks on SCATV Channel 3 and on our website, somervilleneighborhoodnews.org. We begin up on Lowell Street. Residents there have complained about speeding cars for years, and a serious accident last spring brought the issue to the fore. Yu Xiao Yuan brings us the story.
The city claims cars have slowed down due to a curve called a chicane painted on the road, which is supposed to slow the traffic. But 5 minutes on the street make it clear. Speeding cars are still a problem. Officials say they have data to support their claim. But residents attending a November 12th meeting said they have their doubts.
You go by there and you can come sit in my driveway anytime you want. And you watch these cars, because when they get by Albion Street, they see the green light, they gun it.
Although it is behind schedule, the community path will open soon, meaning more pedestrians and more bikers in the neighborhood. The city says it will tackle the problem with a permanent chicane.
One of the things that we can do in certain spots to make that sidewalk wider is to actually do a permanent chicane and move the curb line in and out to make
and with a lowered speed limit.
The prevailing speed limit in Massachusetts is 30 miles an hour. If we want to reduce the speed limit in Somerville past 30 miles an hour, if we want to do it citywide, that is a home rule petition that would have to pass in the legislature, which the city is willing to introduce. We can also ask for the speed limit to be lowered just on Lowell Street, which the city is actually now participating MassDOT to do that.
The city will also add crosswalks to both ends of the Lowell Street Bridge, but not soon enough for neighbors.
If the community path does not open this winter, can you give us the assurance that you're going to do some pedestrian safety initiatives on Lowell Street around that bridge this year?
No.
No. Okay.
All right, so the community path is going to open sometime in the spring, correct? Yes. Will there be crosswalks in place, 2 crosswalks in place on either side of the bridge before the community path opens up?
Yes. Yes.
And when would the chicanes actually be implemented?
That's a longer, most likely we would kick that off. Best case scenario, you're getting someone under contract and the like, it would be in the February, March.
Residents also proposed other improvements like stop signs, raised crosswalks, bike lanes, and flashing pedestrian crossing signs.
No, just tells the people pedestrians are crossing.
But no change immediately.
I'm a little disappointed to hear that the community path will not be opened up to people this fall or this winter. I'm a little disappointed that the city has not taken any safety initiatives since last July. So we'll just have to keep our fingers crossed that people obey the speed limit on Lowell Street. So it looks like we're going to have to wait until next spring for any significant improvements to take place.
I've been extremely concerned about this, and I wouldn't say I'm satisfied, but I feel better than I did before this presentation. Especially encouraging is the fact that the city is formally petitioning the state to reduce the speed limit on the entirety of Lowell Street, all of Lowell Street, and I'm going to file a board order to have both of those put in and ask the city to put in flashing lights on either end of the bridge to slow traffic.
Will the crosswalks be built before the community path opens? Will MassDOT allow a lower speed limit? And what about the chicanes? We will keep you posted. For Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Yu Xiaoyuan.
The community path opening is delayed because construction is behind schedule and will soon have to be stopped due to winter. According to City Hall, the project has not gone over budget. 6 months ago, our reporters found that a new ordinance banning containers like this one, made from expanded polystyrene or styrofoam, was being ignored.
The ban began on May 23rd, but city officials got off to a late start. They sent flyers to businesses and started enforcing it on October 1st.
And we wanted to recognize that we have a lot of non-English speaking business owners and a lot of folks who aren't necessarily internet savvy or even up to speed with the current goings-on in the cities. Part of my role is to support the education component and help small businesses transition to non-polystyrene uses, so paper, wheat, certain other environmentally friendly products.
Last June, reporters found many restaurants that were ignoring the ban.
On Broadway is another restaurant still using styrofoam as their to-go containers.
City officials said they recently checked out 52 restaurants and found that all of them except one was obeying the new law. But it didn't take me long to find violators.
6 months ago, our reporters went to Mom and Gina's and found that they were using styrofoam food containers. I went back there today and found that they still are.
But some have made the switch.
I visited a Brazilian supermarket in Union Square and found that they were not using styrofoam food containers and were instead using paper, meaning that they are in compliance with the ordinance.
City Hall said it delayed the law's enforcement until October in order to do outreach with multilingual materials and to help businesses find alternative options.
Part of my job is to get information into small business owners' hands, where the alternatives you can use, and then we complemented that with actual product lists of some of the more popular items. We broke it down by sort of price per unit, the material, because there's certain materials that are better with hot items and some better that are with cold items.
What do restaurant owners think of the new law?
We've been working, everything is changing. We used to have the styrofoam containers, also coffee cups used to be styrofoam cups. Pretty much we change everything now to plastic and aluminum containers. We don't mind for the 5 to 10% increase on the price because it should help the city, it helps the environment, it helps people, they help us. To be honest with you, the way we're using now the clear plastic, people can see your food, see what you're selling. When you buy, then you can see. And the aluminum container with the clear plastic container so you can see what you're buying. It's more presentable for us.
But not all owners are as pleased. Oliveira's Steakhouse does a lot of takeout business with hot food.
It's been tough because we spend a lot of more, it's very expensive, to buy those containers. We started like about a month ago. We still in the process, and see how we can carry this in the best way, But if we do this, charge this for the customer, it's not good. We've been, asked to pay those difference, and we're still in the process and see how we can do better with that. But we're still learning how, to get it.
So far, Oliveira said he hasn't passed the extra cost of the new containers on to customers. He has 2 restaurants, and for now, he makes separate container purchases.
I think, there's only city in Somerville they changed that and they make we use a plastic right now. It's being very expensive for us. Why only Somerville? I don't understand why they change only here in this city. Like Boston, they don't use this regular container. Only Somerville changed that. I just don't understand why.
Officials stressed that they are trying to help the city's small businesses make the switch. They also noted that violators will receive 1 warning before being fined $100 for the first offense. The city issued only 1 warning in October.
I just went to Highland Cuisine in Somerville to get some griot, but unfortunately, it was in a styrofoam food container. 2 out of the 4 places I visited in Somerville are still using styrofoam food containers, despite it being mid-November. We will keep following this story. For Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Sarah Zhang.
Now we head to Winter Hill with the latest on the fallout related to an assault of a woman allegedly by a man then living at a group home at 155 Central Street. The home is run by healthcare company Vinfen, which has over 200 mental health-related facilities in the state, 8 of them in Somerville. Neighbors have long complained about a lack of supervision at the home. Kayla Mamalak attended a meeting on November 10th between Vinfen, neighbors, city officials, and the State Department of Mental Health. She and neighbors learned that some progress has been made.
On November 7th, the Department of Mental Health and Vinfen met with the immediate neighbors of the group home on Central Street to discuss changes they hope to see.
We sat there for almost 3 hours on a Friday night just talking about the issues. When we left, we understood that the DMH understood how we felt, and then they said, all right, these are the changes that we are working with Vinfen to make.
Since then, some changes have been made.
I can say that we made one promise last meeting, not to accept anybody new into the program. We have not done that. The second thing we did not promise in the meeting, but after looking at it together, we decided not to have the respite. Too much coming and going in a pretty stable neighborhood with very close houses. Okay, that makes sense.
And there is one more step in the works.
The third step is the audit. Both DMHs going in, Vinfen within themselves. And that will be the third step.
You know, the time for some clarity has arrived, and I think we're willing to be clear. I'm willing to be clear.
But residents say there is still more to be done.
We just want the house to function correctly.
And it's unclear what, if anything, took place to make sure that didn't happen again, not in my neighborhood, not in anybody's neighborhood, not with anybody's daughter.
Some demanded accountability for all 8 group homes run by Vinfen in Somerville.
It's not just this house. Vinfen has many issues at many houses, and it's frightening all of us.
City officials encouraged neighbors to join an ongoing advisory committee that would weigh in on the Vinfen home.
This is not about checking a box. This is about having a real, working, functioning way for neighbors to talk to the community.
As the meeting adjourned, officials were hopeful.
People in the community have experienced years and years of, mistreatment and frustration dealing with the Vinfen house and the residents of the house. But given that background and how much upset people have, I thought it was a positive meeting, much more positive than the first one.
I think there was a commitment to transparency by Department of Mental Health and Vinfen, and I also think there was a commitment from the city to be part of that process going forward.
The Department of Mental Health is now conducting random searches of the Vinfen home on Central Street per the request of the advisory committee. The advisory committee will be meeting again December 2nd right here to discuss further changes that can be made to this Vinfen home. With Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Kayla Mamalak.
For 2 weeks this month, pretend customers have been ordering pretend food from pretend waiters. What's up with that?
So I'll be right back, okay guys? Alrighty guys?
Yeah, I said I wanted the sweet potato fries. I don't want potatoes even on my plate. I wanted sweet potato fries.
Oh, I do apologize. I know you ordered the sweet potato fries.
So his burger came out with the wrong kind of fries. What's the other way we could have handled that?
Leave the plate and come back with it right.
Right, I'm so sorry about that. You know what, let me leave that here so your food doesn't get cold. You can eat with everybody else. I'll be right back with your fries.
I am a volunteer for The Rock, the Restaurant Opportunity Center. We train people on fine dining restaurant skills.
You were asking about, educating him on taking the bottle of wine. Remember, at the end of the day, we're servers, right? We're here to sell food. to represent the restaurant. We're not here to educate people. We're not here to police people, right?
These are for people that are changing careers, have never worked in a restaurant before. I teach them everything that they need to know, from opening wine, serving wine, what side of this table to serve from, menu knowledge.
Has anyone ever heard this before?
Yes.
What does this mean?
I don't know what that means. Al dente means when the pasta it's got a little bite to it. I'm just here to look for a part-time job. I'm looking for extra income for the holidays.
Louis, you ready? Balancing it all. You have a good balance?
Sometimes I think a waiter gets misunderstood a lot of the times. People think it's an easy job, and I find out the hard way that it's not.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Betty. I will be your server. And would you like to drink something?
Before we start,
Yes, sir.
I just need to tell you that we have to be at a movie at 8 o'clock.
Okay, so
Okay.
your hand
Okay.
is the support for the tray.
I've been here in this country for 15 years, but I've been working through these 15 years in kitchen, like a cook. But I like to learn, how to be a server. I'm looking for a job right now.
The Restaurant Opportunity Center is basically here to support people like myself and others that work in the restaurant industry. We're here to fight to make sure that we get earned sick time, that we're working to increase the hourly wage. Most people don't realize we only make $2.63 an hour in the restaurant business. And in California right now, they're making $10 an hour, tipped employees. So we're really working hard to get that changed, to make sure that we have our benefits. All right, to see my hand right here, I have my pinky finger kind of sticking up in the air.
It's a problem. I don't have a pinky finger right there on that hand.
Okay, all right.
I really don't.
All right, no problem.
For whatever reason, you hit your head in the kitchen, and if you don't know how to uncork a bottle of wine properly and how to pour, you can't move into a front of house position where you can get tips. And that's where the money is in food. So what this program is doing is it's giving people skills that they didn't get in the field for whatever reason, so that they can get jobs that are actually financially worth getting.
Thank you.
Good.
We are donating the space because we think it's really important to support programs like this that provide opportunities to workers.
If you want to find out more about Restaurant Opportunities Center and its work in the Boston area and nationwide, check out rockunited.org. Now, let's hear what's in this week's Somerville Journal.
Hello, this week in the Somerville Journal we'll have the latest on property tax increases, a look at the LGBTQ community in the city, and we'll be checking out the latest delays in the community path construction. You can always check us out at wickedlocal.com/Somerville, follow us on Twitter at VilleJournal, or get in touch with me at 617-629-3385 or datkinson@wickedlocal.com.
The state of Massachusetts finally got its Health Connector website up and running. Open enrollment started on November 15th. An agency here in Somerville is playing an important role. News Director Jane Regan brings us the story.
Last year's rollout of Affordable Care Act healthcare in Massachusetts was a fiasco. Finally, a year later, the state is trying again.
Given last year's challenges with the website, we're really trying to connect people to what we heard loud and clear last year is connecting people with real people. We'll make a website available to do it as well on your own, but we know that that in-person assistance is very, very important.
The state has contracted with organizations they are calling navigators, who have staff ready to assist applicants. One of them is the Massachusetts Alliance of Portuguese Speakers, MAPS.
We're very proud at MAPS to be partnering with the Health Connector for the second year. So we're really excited to be doing that and to really promote the importance of health insurance for all Portuguese speakers and others. The reality is that MAPS is a navigator agency, and as a navigator agency, we're helping everyone who is uninsured or underinsured apply for health insurance.
Officials estimate that at least 400,000 people will need to enroll in the new program.
Throughout the year, we witnessed a clear attempt in this country to downplay the value of the Affordable Care Act because the system we hoped to have in place was not there. Yet we continued our work and were able to assist more than 600 individuals. We have a full staff of certified navigators trained to serve everyone and committed to helping the low-income and limited English-speaking individuals of all ages to understand their insurance options.
Open enrollment started on November 15th. If you have Mass Health or another state insurance program, or if you're uninsured, don't waste any time. Get insured now. You can go online and do it yourself, but if you need some extra help, you can go to MAPS, which is one of about 15 navigator sites around the state. Call to make an appointment. There are staff standing by and they'll help you for free. And you don't have to be a Portuguese speaker to call MAPS. You can be a low-income person who doesn't really know how to use computers. You can be someone who just got to the country. You can be someone who speaks Spanish, Nepali, Creole, English, Mandarin, any of the many languages spoken here in Somerville. The important thing is to get insured during the open enrollment period. For Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Jane Regan.
Here's some more health news from Dr. Ira Michelson.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ira Michelson with the Medical Minute. I want to talk to you today about something that may save your life. I'm talking about colon rectal cancer screening. This has been in the news recently because there's a rising incidence of colon rectal cancer in the age group 30 to 50. So we know that people over 50 are supposed to get this exam every 10 years as a routine, but if you're under 50 and you're having symptoms, you want to speak to your primary care physician and get referred for an examination. You need to pay attention to symptoms if you're under 50, and these symptoms would include bleeding, difficulty with bowel movements, etc. The exam is simple. It requires an overnight preparation. The exam itself takes less than a half hour. It's an outpatient procedure. You go in, you have it done, and before you know it, you're on your way home. If there's a problem there, you can find it and deal with it. So you've got to mention your symptoms to your doctor and get referred. Don't be shy. Get the examination done. This may be life-saving. So this is something that you want to remember. It's just like taking care of your car. The car needs oil. The human body needs routine checkups as well. So get your colonoscopy screening. This is Dr. Ira Michelson for the Medical Minute.
Last, we dig a little into the issue of immigration. On November 11th, I attended a talk about the roots of the immigration crisis. Two experts discussed the history of immigration to this country and looked at where immigration reform stands today. Afterwards, I sat down with one of them, Professor Aviva Chomsky. So before we get into the causes of this purported immigration crisis, I want to just talk about the word crisis. Is that the best word to use?
We heard the word crisis thrown around a lot last summer when we had large numbers of young people from Central America crossing the border. And I think that it's often used in the mainstream media is that somehow it's a crisis for the United States, whereas really it's a crisis. There has to be some kind of a crisis going on that's going to make children leave their homes, flee their homes, and take an extraordinarily dangerous journey to the border and across the border. So I think if we want to locate the crisis, we have to look into Central America for the crisis that's happening there. Another aspect of the crisis, though, is caused explicitly by our immigration law. That is, our laws have created a situation where hundreds of thousands of children are legally separated from their parents and cannot legally reunite with their parents. So that's a crisis too. But I feel like when the term crisis has been used, it's been more to refer to, oh, there's a crisis happening to the United States. All these children are coming. That's a terrible crisis, rather than thinking about who's actually suffering from the crisis.
We hear that people come to the U.S. for a free ride. What would you say to that?
The majority of the children who are crossing the border are not coming to get a free ride in the United States. They're coming because their parents are here. And their parents have been here often for many years or even many decades. And their parents are here working and their parents are paying taxes, as everybody who works and spends money pays taxes. Generally, they're not taking American jobs that lots of Americans are fighting over. They're taking the jobs that nobody wants and that only somebody who does not have documents and who doesn't have access to the goods that society has to offer is going to be willing to take. They're jobs that have extremely unpleasant and dangerous working conditions, that are very insecure, that have terrible hours, that nobody who has another option is going to take, so they're left for the people who have no other options.
What are the historical and more recent causes to this movement that aren't discussed as publicly?
So I don't want to cover all of American history, although I could lecture you for an hour trying to answer that question. But some of the immediate causes of say, the migration of the last 2 or 3 decades are changes in the U.S. labor market and changes in the countries that migrants are coming from, and changes in the relationships between the United States and the countries that they're coming from. So let me just try to go over each of those really quickly. Changes in the U.S. labor market. We've seen a huge expansion of jobs at the lower end of the labor market. So migrants from Central America have always worked in these lower rungs, whether it's been in agriculture, in mining, in railroad building, jobs that are temporary, that are seasonal, that are unregulated, that are extremely dangerous and onerous. The loss of the manufacturing sector and the turning of our economy into a service economy has created a lot of very low-level service jobs that are frequently unregulated. A lot of immigrants work still in sectors like agriculture, but also in newly expanding sectors like home health care, like elder care, like landscaping, like fast food. The second thing is what's been happening in the countries that the migrants are coming from, primarily Mexico and Central America. And what's been happening there has been neoliberal reforms that have severely undermined social safety networks, and especially the ability of subsistence farmers to live on their land. And those have been imposed through free trade agreements like the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, or the Central America Dominican Republic Free Trade Agreement, CAFTA-DR. So many of the recent migrants are migrants from rural areas who have been turned into refugees by economic policies that make it impossible for them to survive on their land. If you look at Central America in particular, people are coming from 3 countries in Central America. They're not coming from everywhere in Central America. They're coming from El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. They're not coming from Nicaragua, Belize, Panama, and Costa Rica. And there's very clear reasons why migrants are coming from those 3 countries. And they have to do with U.S. interventions in those countries that have created extraordinary repression against popular movements for social change in those countries, scorched earth tactics that have driven people off the land, tactics amounting to genocide in Guatemala throughout the 1980s and into the 1990s, and the neoliberal policies that have followed those. It was the wars of the 1980s that sent the first generation of migrants to the United States. Many of those who are migrating now are the children of those who migrated in the 1980s. Many immigrants don't want to migrate. They migrate because they have to, not because they want to. Many immigrants would much rather stay home if they could stay home. So one of the goals of our domestic, foreign, and immigration policies should be to allow people who want to stay home. And that means drastically changing our foreign and economic policies towards Mexico and Central America, the places that people are coming from.
Well, that's it for tonight. We'll be back on December 2nd. In the meantime, you can watch and read news stories at somervilleneighborhoodnews.org. And check out our Facebook page, SCATV SNN. Share your favorite segment or send a tweet at SCATV SNN. We welcome you to get involved with Somerville Neighborhood News. Become a reporter or just send in your ideas. Call us at 617-628-8826 or write to news@scatvsomerville.org. I'm Elijah Kaplan. See you around the neighborhood.